Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations about Network Marketing. Hi, I'm BK, and as usual, over on the other end, Dr. Wayne. Hi, Dr. Wayne.
Hi BK, hi everyone.
So, Dr. Wayne and I were just having a bit of a laugh just now because we were talking about how we have been learning as we go along, creating this podcast for everyone. Because in the past, before we did this, we had this short intro music. We had to hunt for the beginning of an episode, and there was a lot of time needed for editing and stuff like that, right? But now that we have a short intro music, it's so much easier. So that's the beauty about learning, right, and business, right? We learn along the way, right, Doc?
Yeah, and I think the most important part about what was just said there, BK, is that you only learn through action. So we can theorize, we can meditate, and we can do all these different things, which is still important and goal set. But if we don't put things into action, we don't find out the nuances or the little things can make huge differences, like we've just found out.
Yeah, it's just amazing, and I think that's one of the beautiful part about really just going out and taking action. But you're right, I totally agree. Um, you need to have both. Like, let's say we talk about, someone is planning a trip, and you want to go somewhere now. Well, you could wing it totally, and you just decide to buy a plane ticket to nowhere and just go, and then you decide where you are, and then you start to make plans along the way. Or you could literally make very careful, detailed plans on the destination and what you're going to do at the location. But either way, you have to couple them together, right? You have to make the plan and you have to take action, like actually buying a plane ticket, getting out the door, going to the airport, and maybe flying to the place. So
Yeah,
it is the
yeah.
same for life. We need both. We need both the planning, we also need to take action at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. And in that action, what happens then is you then find mistakes. And what happens is typically the human mind, the conscious mind, the ego basically then says that what you've done is wrong. And therefore we hit an obstacle. But if we look at that in terms of a learning curve and we allow that to move forward, that thing that once upon a time was wrong basically now becomes something that we can learn from. And it's the same with network marketers in terms of the first objection they get. Oh, this is something that's wrong. I've done something wrong because I didn't say yes. No, well, the more and more you do it, the more you take action on it, all of a sudden things change and you actually find a smoother path. That's what we're describing here as well. So it's quite interesting when you put it into a step-by-step process. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but I'm having fun, right? We both having fun. Yeah, and I think some of you, if you remember our earlier episodes, we did talk about this. We were talking and talking and talking about starting a podcast, and that took us a bit of time, but eventually we said, let's just do it, and that really helped to move things along.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, those of you who have caught this new season of season two of our Candid Conversation about Network Marketing, you have probably picked up on the fact that we have started doing show notes, which kind of helped us to have to not ask the question in the morning, you know, like what are we going to talk about today? So because I kind of know what we're going to talk about already, because Doc has very kindly prepared the show notes. And if you do want the show notes, do check us out at our website, which is networkmarketerpodcast.com. And just look out for the little chat bot that we have over there, and you can access the show notes. So, Doc, I know what we're going to talk about today. It is a very interesting topic. I have been introduced to this by you recently, and it's really a mind blowing thing. So, yeah, maybe I ask you again, what are we going to talk about today?
It's a good way to start, actually,
Yeah, it
BK.
is. Yeah, it is it's a good way to start.
Yeah. So, as BK mentioned, it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. I know we've mentioned it a number of times in past podcasts as well, but I just wanted to really dig deep into this subject. And today we will discover a universal law that most don't know about. And when you listen to a lot of people today or through other podcasts and that, you're getting extremely fantastic information on the law of attraction, the secret, goal setting, and all this absolutely brilliant information. The thing to really understand is that this underpinning law, or this law, underpins all other laws until we are okay with it. And once you know this and implement this, it's life-changing. It's really life-changing, and it is a law that can change everything about what's happening in your life once we understand it, and we're going to learn a lot about it today. However, first, what I want to go through is just go back and rehash a few things. And once again, if you want to go deeper into this, we have actually put together the 5 hidden secrets. We go through these universal laws in a lot more detail, but just to briefly go through from an understanding point of view, we are governed by universal laws. And in ancient medicine, there are 6 or more spiritual laws. However, there are 7 major universal laws and 7 spiritual laws of success. Sorry, there are 36. I think I said 6 before. I'll start again. From an ancient medicine perspective, there are over 36 spiritual laws, 36. However, there are 7 major universal laws and 7 spiritual laws. And within quantum physics, the interesting phenomena here is that within quantum physics, if you go back to the 1920s, where a gentleman by the name of Werner Heisenberg, he basically suggested that above the 4 dimensions that we're familiar with these days, there actually is another 2 dimensions. And these 2 dimensions are to do with the information fields of time and space, evolution. It's the way everything is organized. And this is even where the blueprint of our body and everything about we are in these information fields, which is really interesting when you think of it, because remember, when we're talking about ancient medicine, universal laws that have been around for some say up to 40,000 years, and Western medicine have only really come to sort of grasp these things in the 1920s. And just so we can understand this from another level, we then have frequencies. So think of the frequencies that are now generated for you to be able to watch this podcast, watch and listen to this podcast, probably listen to it. But these are frequencies, and these frequencies allow the information then to move between these fields into matter, so then we can actually understand them as well. So interesting concepts about these information fields, and how quantum physics now basically suggests that there's 6. But recently, there's even been suggestions that there's 10 dimensions have been theorized. And then if we go into the string theory and the bosonic string theory, there's up to 26 dimensions. And then the M theory has 11 dimensions. So there's all these different theories about in quantum physics, trying to, I believe, explain ancient medicine's universal laws, which is pretty incredible, isn't it, BK? It's just phenomenal how we can have thousands upon thousands of years of ancient medicine that says something that today science is just starting to prove. And I've always made the comment that science is only as good as the technology of the day.
Yeah, so it's totally true. And for some of us who are listening in, and terms like quantum physics and string theory is a bit strange and unfamiliar, don't worry about it, because this is not a physics lecture, you know. And what we are trying to say here is that it is just sometimes the scientists are trying to find ways to describe the physical world and perhaps the world that we see and we do not see, you know, in words that can help us understand. And like what Dr. Wayne has been saying, a lot of these concepts and a lot of this knowledge have actually been passed on over the ages in ancient texts, in traditional, traditional medicine like Chinese TCM, or even like the Ayurvedic kind of systems of medicine. But today, the scientists are trying to find ways to explain some of these things, and because we have the technology to be able to even like the microscope, for example, it is only like this few decades that we have been able to look into the microscopic world that lives around us, right? So that's what we are trying to say. So don't worry about it. It is not that daunting. You know, we are just trying to explain that there are certain things that the scientists are are trying to make sense of, which is good, right? Because, like for example, I always tell my team sometimes that we live in two worlds: one that we can see with our naked eye, and one that we cannot see with the naked eye, but it still exists, right? Even things like what goes on in our cells, the mechanisms inside our body, those are things that we didn't used to be able to see, but today science has made it possible for us to see them.
Yeah, and even on that, I know it's a little bit off topic, but it's quite interesting in terms of that. From science, they say there's around about 50 trillion human DNA cells, and science is saying there's somewhere between 38 and 70 trillion bacterial DNA cells, whether they count what's inside our body, 38 trillion, and then if they add that to what then is living on outside of our body and inside of our body, it can be up to 70 trillion. And then they say there's up to 130 trillion DNA from viruses that we're born with that we then live with as well. And then we've got parasites and yeast and all these other things that live within us. So we're actually more critter. I call us more critter than human. And
Yeah,
if we, sorry,
so I was about to say, when we hear the word that says that your body is not your own, is quite literally true.
it's very true. And when this is symbiotic, and when we're in the symbiotic relationship, and if it's all harmonized, then we have homeostasis or balance, we have great health. And the reason I wanted to go here is from an ancient medicine perspective. The light of the universe, and this is said in an ancient text as well, in different ways. You can even find it in the Bible. You can find it in the Bhagavan, the Ayurvedic text, the Bhagavad Gita. I just can't remember it just now. I'll remember it shortly. All the ancient texts say it's similar, but it goes something like the light of the universe will not enter if the physical body is impure. So think of it like these vibrationary frequencies we were talking about. As the body becomes more and more ill and these viruses and bacteria sort of take over our body, then the universal influences that are positive find it very hard to get into the body. So I went off track there, but I thought that was quite interesting in terms of understanding how the physical body is the transmitter of these universal laws. And as mentioned, we have 7 of them, and 3 of them are immutable. They are eternal laws and can't be changed. And then we have 4 that are transitory, which they're called mutable laws, which means we can change them. And as said, we're not going to go deep into these ones now, but if you want to find more about them, we do have them in modules within something called the 5 hidden reasons. Now, interestingly, the law of attraction and goal setting and the secret that we've heard before, but just going back to the law of attraction, the law of attraction is a universal law that transcends all these mutable laws and is fundamental to changing the circumstances of your life so that you can consciously create your intended reality and achieve true mastery. And this is very, very true. This law of attraction is really true. It is extreme. It's real. It's there. We send out a vibrationary frequency that then brings back our reality. And then they say from science that something like 3,000 gene expressions can occur quite quickly. And depending upon our thoughts, they can then actually influence whether that be a negative gene expression or a positive gene expression. And this is, so say for example, if our thoughts are always in the negative, therefore the law of attraction, therefore will attract the negative. And this is something we really have to understand. And a lot of this is, it's not that it's anyone's fault, it's just that this is how we're programmed from when we were younger. But if we can get through this and learn the law of attraction, and with this underpinning law that I'll be talking about shortly, and we use the both together, great things can really, really then start to happen, that's for sure. And what I want to go now into is this law that we really have to understand. So I think I've said it many times before in other podcasts, but just to restate it again, unfortunately, for the majority of people, the law of abundance, the secret, goal setting, listening to podcasts and these type of things really do nothing. They really don't work. Now, I'm going to prove this statement. I know that sounds shocking, but I'm going to prove this statement. If this was true, how come most Western or most civilization is living beyond, below the poverty line. If you look at the Western civilization, it's something like 90% of people, when they get to retirement age, haven't got enough money to retire on, and they end up on the pension. I'm sure when they were 35 or 50, they didn't go, hey, I'm going to goal set, and I'm going to end up on the pension when I get older. I'm sure that wasn't their goal. I'm sure that wasn't their thing that they thought about the law of attraction. And as said, the law of attraction, goal setting, and the secret, and all these things don't work unless we understand. Don't work for the majority. Of course, they do work for that 20% of people, and I'll explain why shortly. The law of resistance is the one that we really, really have to understand. The law of resistance, and you may have heard it being spoken about before. What you resist in life, you attract. And I'm sure you've heard of that one, BK, and a lot of other people have heard of that as well.
Yeah, what you resist persists, right?
Yes. Yeah. So any comments about what we've just said so far there, mate?
Yeah, I mean, what Dr. Wayne said is unfortunately a sad statistic that we find in the world. In fact, he is generous to say 20%. Because what they found was that if you survey a group of 25-year-olds, everyone would have amazing aspirations when you're 25, right? You definitely want to retire wealthy and carefree and financially independent by the time you're 60 or 65, when you survey a group of people at 25. But what they found was that at the age of 60, 65, only one is wealthy or rich, 4 would be financially independent, and the rest are either living on a pension or just making, just getting by, and some are probably even relying on the help of like friends and family. That's the sad situation that is going on. So it is not that the law of attraction doesn't work, but I think like what Dr. Wayne is trying to say here, there's something else at play here that we need to understand. Because if everyone understands that they want something good in their lives, and if they think that, then they should be attracting that into their lives. But yet, why is it not the case? And one of the things that, in fact, what I wanted to talk about, Doc, just now, if you give me a couple of minutes, is to bring it into context of our network marketing industry as well. Oftentimes when we do the business, a lot of times you will find that some of your associates and teammates, they look for that magic bullet or that silver bullet where, the certain phrase or a certain way of saying something that can just magically bring a new prospect into their team or a new associate to join their team, right? They're always looking for that shortcut, but it doesn't exist. And what happens is that even though you teach the same script to a group of them, you will find that there will be some of them that have massive success with the script, the same exact script, right? But some will come back to you and tell you things like they keep getting the same kind of objections, right? The same kind of response from people. So why is that the case? Same script, same way of delivering it, but yet some have massive success and then some keep facing the same kind of objections. So that kind of explains, and in fact what we're talking about today would explain a little bit of that as well.
Exactly, it does explain, because once again, unknowingly, so if we do look at 10 new people who come into network marketing, we know that one person will be a business builder, and say we now got 10 people, so now we've got 100 people, we now know that there'll be 10 business builders, and we know, because of statistics, that out of those 10 business builders that we've got from the 100 people, we now know that only 1 or 2 will actually make it into whereby they can make a really good income. And the reason is exactly what we're talking about here. And as BK explained there, you can give the same script, you can give all the same things to those 10 people who are business builders, and only 1 or 2 will do exceptionally well. And the reason is, unknowing to them, they're sending out a frequency from themselves that's actually repelling or giving negative vibes, remembering not that it's their fault, it's just what happens. So therefore, they might feel as if they can't sell, or whatever the reason may be in their mind. And this is what actually stops them from moving forward, even though consciously they might be saying, yes, I'm a pretty good seller, I'm getting better at this, I'm getting better at this, but subconsciously there's a huge block that's stopping them from moving forward. And this is where the law of resistance comes in. And the law of resistance, basically these emotional frequencies come in prior to the age of 7. And literally prior to the age of 7, we are a huge sponge for any type of information. We cannot discern, or we can't interpret whether it is good information or not so good information or terrible information. We just sponge it in, we just take it in. And now it depends upon that environment that we've brought up with, whether that stays with us. Now, if it stays with us, what happens then is from the ages of 5, 7, especially from 7, we then, because we're now sending out a vibrationary frequency, now we actually then allow things to come to us, I believe, as opportunities. But what happens is the human brain sees it as a negative. So say, for example, it might be, a simple one, money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, so you're now got to 7 and you have this now ingrained in you from family members, etc., and what's happened in your life up until 7. And then you might have your first job, and you might be 11-year-old and you have $10 in your savings, and you saved it up really hard. And unfortunately, one of your friends comes along and you didn't know, and they actually take that money away from you. And you didn't know it happened. You just noticed it's just totally gone. Now, somehow you sent out a frequency to prove that money is difficult and money doesn't grow on trees, so therefore people take it. Now, if you look at that from a point of view at opportunity, or understanding the law of resistance, then what you can do then is you can use that in a positive way and understand that the most important word in this is responsible. Somehow, everything that happens in your life, if you take responsibility for it, the law of resistance therefore doesn't take a hold. But say you're going back to this 11-year-old and now you blame your friends, and you blame people, you don't even know who done it, and now you become more emotional due to that challenge that just occurred. You're actually reinforcing the law of resistance, the thought process of money doesn't grow on trees. And then you might get to 25 and you've saved up all your money and you're doing exceptionally well. You even got into your first network marketing. You're making a fair bit of money. You're doing exceptionally well. And you go and buy one of the best real estate. You put $500,000 into a mortgage. You got this huge mortgage. You're doing really well. And then the property market goes down. And you go, oh no, I have to now sell the house, I have to go bankrupt. You're reinforcing this all the time. Now, I know this may seem or sound negative. I'm not meaning for it. I just really want you to understand how this law works. And you can take that into health, you can take that into wealth, you can take that into relationships, you can take that into anything in your life. But the key word that I really want to get across here is the word responsibility. Even some people will come up to me and say, well, Wayne, I was sitting at the set of lights the other day and I was really happy, and someone ran me up the back and actually totaled my car. Luckily, I was all right. How did I cause that? And I said, well, at that particular moment, you didn't cause it. But if you look back at your programming and all the words and the things that you were maybe saying prior, I'm sure that we could put together the reason why that occurred at that particular time. Now, if you don't understand what we've just gone through and you are sitting in the car and someone rings you up the back, you get out of the car, you slam the door, you go up to the guy, you abuse him. How could you do that? I was stationary. You go sue the person, and all you're doing here is reinforcing that negative belief around yourself, and you're reinforcing it, waiting, and what you're doing now, you're setting that up to happen again in the future. However, if you take responsibility and you get out and you just come from a neutral space and you just go up to the person and ask, are you okay? Is everything okay? What happened? What allowed you to do that? How come you hit me up the back? And it says, oh, a bee came into my, like, you can find these really interesting stories when you actually do it from a different angle. I had a bee that came into the door and I was swishing around, all of a sudden the lights had stopped and I didn't realize that you were stopped. And unfortunately, I rang. I really am sorry about this. And when you come from a responsibility angle, things change. Things totally change. And the law of resistance basically starts to drop away. So our goal here is in life, and this is another word that's really important to understand with the law of resistance, is to let go of judgment. When you judge something for good or bad, even good, when you judge something, it creates the opposite to whatever you want in your life. It allows the law of resistance to get stronger. So drop judgment. We want non-judgment. We want to be non-judgmental is another key word to letting go of the law of resistance. So it's interesting what happens, BK, when we have these opportunities, we can turn them into something else, unfortunately.
So just to be clear, Doc, you're saying also that we don't even, so I mean, we are trying to learn to let go of the bad things and not judge the bad things. But you are saying that we also need to let go of judging something to be good as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we
and this
accept.
Is another level of understanding, but I'm just putting that in there, yes.
Okay. So we kind of interpret events as neutral as best as we can,
yes.
right? Yeah. Okay, cool.
And a good way of understanding this is I want you to think of, and while I'm those people listening, what I want you to do is think of a beautiful rainforest, and you're walking through the rainforest and you come across a stream and you're just looking at the stream. There's no judgment, is there? All you're doing is looking. So now if you look at, now you're walking along the beach and you just stand still and you're watching the waves come in and you're looking at the water. And I'm doing it now. And hopefully a lot of you are able to do this. Some people I know can't, but I'm visually seeing the beautiful blue ocean with the waves coming in. I'm seeing the expanse of the ocean. I've got some mountains on the right-hand side, and I've got a nice estuary on the left-hand side coming through. I'm not judging that. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's literally neutral. And that's the space we need to be in. Because what determines good? It's only a judgment, isn't it? And what determines whether it's good in your eyes or someone else's? You might be looking at, say, someone with a red dress. Now we'll come back to how we tend to judge. Say now we're looking at someone with red dress, and a person may think, oh, that's a fantastic color. That person really looks nice and red. And another person will be looking at that and go, oh, gee, that's not very good. I don't like red. So they're two different interpretations of the same thing. And even the person looking at that as good, why is it good? It's only good because they somehow have had an expression prior to the age of 7 that has now come into the subconscious to actually allow them to feel that red dresses are okay or good, meaning good, not okay. They are good. So does that make sense in that a little bit more, BK?
Yeah, I think when you mentioned that, it kind of reminded me of something I used to think about when I was a younger person. Not that I'm very old now, but when I was much younger, yeah, it actually brought back a very interesting lesson for myself as well. You know, the idea of raining when it rains, right? And I always used to enjoy rain because it is like to someone it might be an inconvenience, but to another person, to a farmer, for example, that could be a godsend, right? But the event is the same, it's just rain, right? So someone may interpret it as inconvenience because now when you go out, you get wet and you're drenched and you need to bring extra equipment like an umbrella, for example. But to another person, it is a godsend, but yet it's the same event. Right? Over the same space, it's the same event. And therefore, like what Dr. Wayne has just said, we don't have to judge it. It is just an event that took place.
Exactly. Yes. So hopefully you can see the importance of this law of resistance, and hopefully you can now see why this is the underpinning law underneath the law of attraction, underneath goal setting, underneath secret, underpinning all these other laws that are positives. Once we get this law of resistance, what happens then is the law of attraction goal setting then goes to another level all of a sudden things start to change. Another important word to understand in the law of resistance is gratitude. Gratitude is one of those words that is a neutral. It's not a positive or a negative. It's a neutral word. The same as non-judgment is a neutral word. So gratitude, giving gratitude, waking up in gratitude, having a gratitude journal, being in gratitude for those things that happen around you. Not that they're good or bad, just that they have happened in your life. So giving gratitude is one of the things that allows us to actually expand our awareness, let go of the law of resistance and allow the law of attraction and to allow the other universal laws to attract the positive into our life. And what happens then is all different things start to occur in the physical body. So what happens now is because you've dropped certain law of resistance, so something like, say, for example, for whatever reason, you might be 3 years old and unfortunately you've picked up the concept that it is difficult to get well, it's easy to get sick, something like that. And unfortunately then through your whole life, the body unfortunately is not well. But if we come back into the law, being gratitude for what you have and letting go of the law of resistance, things can change. So how do we let go? So of course the ancients have always said it, and today Western medicine is now proving it by EEG and EEG and different types of even Kirlian photography, all different types of science is now proving that meditation is one of the major ways of helping us to let go of the law of resistance and to bring abundance and the law of attraction into us. Another way of thinking of it, when I'm talking with elite golfers and elite athletes, is try to be in the zone. Try to get into that zone. And this is where you use your intuition. And I talked about just before the concept of silent witnessing. Not that I use the word, but when you're, say for example, right now, if I'm sitting up in the corner, allowing myself to look down on myself, I'm silent witnessing myself speaking. And if you do that, you're in the now. You can't be in the future or the past. If you're really listening to BK and I, there is no future or past. You're right here in the now. And this is another way of letting go of the law of resistance. Be spontaneous is really an incredible one as well. When you're in the now, you become more spontaneous as well. And let your intuition guide you. And some people then say, well, how do I know my intuition, and how do I know the differences between my intuition and ego? Because sometimes I think it's my intuition, but I end up doing it's the wrong thing that happens, or the wrong events happen. And remembering the intuition is the positive aspect of our subconscious, and the ego, think of that as the negative aspect of our subconscious. So simply put, think of it when we first come into this information, that 80% of most of our thoughts are ego-driven, unfortunately, due to what I've just described. And maybe 10 to 20%. And maybe I'm a little bit generous here as well, as BK mentioned before. Maybe I'm generous here as well. But let's just say it is 80% that is ego-driven and 20% is intuitive-driven. So what happens is now you want to be this intuitive being. You're giving gratitude, you're meditating, you're doing all these things. You're 6 months down the track and you think you're following your intuition. Guess who's going to raise its head more times than not? The ego. So you think it's intuition, but it's actually the ego driving you. And then you'll find that, oh, look at this, it's taken me to the wrong space. Now you've got two ways of looking at this. Think of it, do I look at it from taking no responsibility, or do I look at it from responsibility? Do I look at it from gratitude? Do I look at it from an aspect of an opportunity? So what will happen if you come from gratitude, an opportunity to learn, if you come from it from the right angle and that responsible angle, you'll go, oh, look at this. The ego has taken me to this area. It wasn't intuition after all. What is it trying to tell me? Oh, okay, that's what it's trying to tell me. I'll let that go. And then you do it. So that's being spontaneous in the now. You're still following your guidance, even though the guidance might be a little bit more ego-driven, because remembering that's where you come from. Things don't change that quick, even though it does for some when you really understand how this works. I totally get that. And because now science is now proving everything that we're seeing and that we're now saying, and we're actually seeing it, we're seeing people who are having miracles, we're seeing people having miracles every day, bones regrowing, joints being just incredible things, cancers disappearing in 24 hours, all because they meditated and did all these things. All of a sudden, people were broke, now they're wealthy, because they've let go of the law of resistance. They've become spontaneous. They're in the now. They're in this zone. They're silent witnessing. They're meditating, and they understand it's a process. But the more that you let go, the process can be shortened. And taking responsibility for everything can change anything. So taking responsibility for anything can change everything. So just some other things we can do. Watch the sunrise, ancient medicine. I know I've said this many times, but watch the sunrise. It's one of the best ways to have great health, great wealth, great relationships. Meditate. Do something that you love every day. Breath is really important. Breathe deeply into your diaphragmatic breathing. So into your stomach first, then into your chest. And if you do it through your nostrils, into your stomach, then into your chest like a wave, then out through your mouth, you're actually alkalizing your body. You're also releasing nitric oxide, which is a redox molecule that actually helps you to expand your blood vessels and help your overall body to have your microcirculation and your circulation to heal better. You give gratitude, even give gratitude to your food, to your loved ones, to the person who has not been that nice to you. And understand these laws. So I know we haven't gone through the 7 here now, but if you want to, the law is the 5 hidden reasons why most network marketers fail and why you don't have to. We do go into these laws in a lot more depth, and we also go through the laws of success as well. So this is the underpinning law. This is the one we really have to become friends with, to understand, to intimately understand. And when you do, the law of abundance, goal setting, the world opens up like an oyster, like you would have never witnessed before.
Awesome stuff. It's like what we have mentioned a few times during our journey towards making this podcast. And what Dr. Wei has just said and shared just now about the first understanding and then learning the steps that we can start taking to kind of let go of this law of resistance or train ourselves, right? So like I think one of the biggest takeaways for myself is that even like listening to our intuition, it is something that can be trained, right? We can train ourselves to listen better. Yes, sometimes it might be intuition, sometimes it might be your ego speaking, but the comfort that I took from what Dr. Wayne shared just now is that I can train myself. If I'm aware, I can start to train myself to be more discerning, understanding which is ego and which is intuition. And when I am non-judgmental and I'm giving myself the space to look at something in a very neutral way, I start to learn, right? Which is exactly what we are talking about here. And also at the same time, the other comforting thing is that understanding can come gradually. It can also come in a split second.
Yes.
Right. So some things will come to you like it's like a shot in the blue, and all of a sudden everything makes sense. Right? Everything makes sense for you. It's like the once the understanding comes, everything just makes sense. But some things may need a bit of time. But whatever it is, whichever way it comes to you, just be thankful, right? Just express gratitude that it comes to you. That is one of the things that I've come to understand. Some things comes to me a little bit slower, but some things just suddenly, once you get it, right? So this is a fascinating topic. It's a fascinating topic, and I think we have not really, we have given you an overview. And we are actually kind of exploring the possibility of actually doing a more full-fledged version of this training as well, right, Dr. Wayne? Perhaps
yes,
we could consider.
Yeah,
so we'll think about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you everyone for joining us today. And remember, we do have show notes. If you want to access the show notes, do hit us up at networkmarketerpodcast.com. networkmarketerpodcast.com. If you're watching this in a video form, there will be you will see the subtitles, which is easy for you. And of course, we do go into greater detail and a much greater depth of some of these spiritual laws in our one of our special programs we have done recently, which is at 5hiddenreasons.com. The numerical number 5, so 5hiddenreasons.com, on why most network marketers fail and why you don't have to. Right. So again, if you're watching this, I will put up the links in a subtitle. But those of us who are not, then just listening in. So again, it's the numerical 5, hiddenreasons.com. So thank you, Dr. Wayne, for an exciting and very interesting introduction to the law of resistance. And I hope that has helped everyone. It certainly has helped me. And we will see you in another week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, BK. Thanks, everyone. Bye.